Okay, so the next part on my series of how to survive on a motorcycle, how to stay alive on a bike, which I'm gearing towards all riders, not just towards beginning riders, but towards all riders. It seems that people can die riding a motorcycle regardless of how much experience or how long they've been riding or how good they think they are as a rider. So I want to make something that's more general. One of the things I think that is overlooked is vision. Now, you've got to be able to see things to avoid them or to get out of their way. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand how important it is to be able to see things, recognize them, respond to them in a reasonable manner, make good decisions, and have enough time to do all this, not panic. I think we take it for granted that we're going to see things. We take it for granted that people will see us. And these are mistakes. This is how a lot of people get severely injured and killed, get into accidents on bikes when they aren't seen and they don't look. And we talk a lot about high visibility gear. I think high visibility gear is decent enough, but at the same time, it still falls into that category of things you don't really expect to see. And a rider has not just to deal with the fact that they're, I saw a guy the other day riding at night here on a CB500, his jet black CB500. He was wearing a black t-shirt and black shorts, and it was night. And the only thing that you could see on that bike were the headlight and the tail light. It just boggles my mind sometimes how people ride and they're almost invisible, and ride around on motorcycles. But at the same time that they ride at night in such poor gear, like just casually riding around the neighborhood or something. And that's fine. You can casually ride around the neighborhood all you want, but that doesn't mean you can't get hit. So in any case, you expect another driver to see you and avoid you. Likewise, they expect you to see them and avoid them. And you need to be able to see. I really, first thing I want to say is, how good is your vision? Have you ever had your eyes checked? Are you one of those people who barely passed the vision check to get a license and just kind of assumed that you have good eyesight? 20/40 is not good eyesight. It's certainly not good eyesight to be riding around with, and certainly not at night. And I think if you've got 20/40 or something, you really need to be riding with glasses. You have a hard time seeing things on the road. You're definitely going to have a hard time seeing things coming down the road that aren't garishly colored or loud or something big. I wouldn't ride a motorcycle if I didn't have at least 20/20 vision. And I've had LASIK, and my vision is, during the day at least, is actually better than 20/20. It's a solid 20/15. I can't really see riding a bike with 20/40. Okay. The second thing is night vision. Now, when you're young, you've got great vision, the ability to change your focus from near to far, things like that. As you get older, that's something you lose. It's harder. It takes longer for you to focus on things that are right in front of you versus things that are down the road. And it can take a good while to change your focus from down the road to looking at your dash, then looking back down the road, and it becomes very distracting to look at your dash. It just is almost something you just don't even really want to look at because it takes so long to change your focus. So I would say, first of all, as a safe rider, don't assume that you have good vision. Don't assume that you can see well. And if you recognize that you have compromised vision, compromise your riding to suit. If you have trouble seeing at night, make sure you don't ride dark back roads. Make sure that you don't go riding at night, unless it's absolutely necessary. And if you do go riding at night, ride on well-lit roads. And ride cautiously. Give yourself extra time to see things that are on the road. If you've got borderline bad vision, get glasses when you ride. Wear glasses when you ride. That extra, 20/20 could possibly save your life. The last thing is, you need to look from left to right. You need to be careful when you make changes and do maneuvers that you are being seen by other riders and other drivers. And I don't mean relying on high vis gear. I mean just taking your time, giving other people time to recognize your presence. don't assume that just because you're riding the speed limit, or you're only doing 20 over the speed limit, or the road's wide open or something, that people are going to see you and people are going to make adjustments, because sometimes people are just not going to look for you. They're just going to see if there's someone right there, and if not, then they'll make that lane change, or they'll make that left turn or that right turn onto the road. They're not going to bother looking way down the road. I've seen people pull out in front of me in my car, 20 feet in front of me, okay? They're not looking 100 feet down the road to see if someone's coming. They're barely looking to see if someone is right there when they want to pull out, okay? So vision is an important thing. Before we even start talking about technique or anything like that, you definitely need to have decent vision, and you need to make sure that you take time and allow people to see you, to see you first of all, before you start assuming that they saw you or they cut you off or something like that. They may not even have bothered looking more than 50 feet down the road. And also, there's something else that you have to take into consideration here. They may not care if they see you, okay? Sometimes drivers and riders will pull out in front of you simply because they think you're riding too fast, and you shouldn't be riding that fast. And even if you're there and they see you and you might hit them, they're gonna do it anyway to teach you a lesson, okay? But that's another thing, is attitude, driver and rider attitude. That's a different problem. But the first thing is, don't assume that your vision is great and that you can see things as you need to see on the road, and you'll avoid a lot of trouble like that. And one of the reasons I want to talk about vision is because, as we all know, when you're going around corners and you're leaning and you're riding a motorcycle and you're braking and steering and so forth, and that's a lot to process. And it takes a while for the brain to process all this information and make the appropriate decisions. And then you have to maneuver the bike and your body. It's not like a car where you just turn the wheel to change your direction. On a motorcycle, if you're, the more you're leaned over and the harder you're turning, the more work you have to do to get the bike to turn the other way. It's not like it's sudden, like you just flip the wheel. Or even if you want to turn less, it takes time and it takes distance to do these things that you don't have to take on a car. And also you have to get the road surface and the line and everything right. So maneuvers on a motorcycle take a lot more time and a lot more energy, and you need more time to plan them and recognize them than you do in a car. And vision is a critical factor of this. This is why I think things like collisions happen to motorcycles, and much more often than they do to cars. Despite the fact that bikes are smaller, okay, you do see more bike-to-bike collisions, just as you see bike-to-bike, bike-to-car collisions. And I want to say this in passing. There's a guy, I just found out about this, I was watching somebody else's vlog. There's a guy named who used to go by the name of Riding with Ash, who was a vlogger. Now, this is the kind of thing that really pains me when I hear about this. A guy riding somewhere in the UK where you ride on the left. This guy was 24 years old, had been riding for 18 months, had two small kids, married with small kids, ran head on into somebody else on a bike coming the other way and died at the scene. There's little that makes me want to quit riding more. All right, where was I? So this guy Riding with Ash was riding his motorcycle out and got into a head-on collision with another bike. And there's little that makes me think it's time to hang up my helmet for good than to read about head-on collisions between motorcyclists. That says all the bad things, all the wrong things about bike, okay? It's one thing if you get into an accident with another car, okay? It's another thing if you come around a corner and you get caught out in gravel or some kind of broken road situation, or a deer runs out in front of you or something like that. When it's two bikers killing each other because they collided on the street, that's having your feet right on the edge of a cliff and looking down. That's only pure stubbornness and a refusal to quit would make me not want to quit riding a bike when this kind of shit happens. Guys riding on this 2-lane road, there's trees, there's a lot of shadow on the road. It's in the UK. You can Google this guy Riding with Ash on YouTube and find out more if you want. It's hard to see in some of these places where there's shadows because, you're in shadow and you're flicking in and out of shadow. You've got these bright light, bright dark transitions, and people have neurological responses to these light patterns. They can go into a mild epileptic fit. They can forget basically that they're on a motorcycle. They can get lost in the riding. They could be lost in